Hello, we are back, and today's reading was from Exodus 1 through 3. And it starts off basically giving us a summary that Israel had taken his descendants into the land of Egypt. It lets us know that Joseph was already in Egypt. And then it goes into telling us, that Joseph and all his family and that generation died. Um, but the Israelites were still doing well off the promise of that God gave to Abraham. So they're still fruitful, they're still multiplying. But now a new king comes into rulership over Egypt, and he don't care about Joseph. He don't care about none of that. He's like, what that mean to me. So he's worried because the Israelites have so many people. The population is huge. So he's like, they can like get mad at us and overtake us, or even join with our enemies and fight us, and that could be a problem. So he decides to make them slaves and give them hard labor. And he was like, he came up with this plan to tell midwives whose names were, what were their names? Sephora, Shifra. Y'all know these names be beating me up. And Pua. He told them to kill the boys and let the girls live. And they told him that the Hebrew women would often give birth before they even get there, because in reality, they didn't want to kill those babies because they were scared of God. So they just said, by the time we get there, they are already born. So the king was like, okay, well, since that's the case, he told them to put all of the boys into the Nile River and the girls could live. Shortly after this declaration from the new king, Moses was born. Um, and his mom hid him for about 3 months. But she could no longer hide him, so she put him in a basket and sent them down the Nile River. She didn't know, though, or the Bible doesn't say that she knew, that his sister was watching, off the way, and was watching like what the mom was doing with the baby. And so it just so happened that Pharaoh's daughter was bathing and saw the basket. So she sent the slave to go get the basket. And guess who the slave was? The sister. I was like, oh, the sister? So Moses' sister saw the mom put him in the basket, basically, I guess, watched the basket flow down the river, had to, give her slave owner a bath or whatever, and just so happened to get her brother back. And then not only that, let me tell you how amazing God is. Not only that, but she goes, should I go get a Hebrew woman to nurse him? And of course the Pharaoh's daughter is like, yeah, go get a Hebrew woman to nurse him. And of course she goes to get her mama. So now her mama is nursing her brother. And guess what? She getting paid to nurse her baby. Mind blown. So Moses, of course, grows up with the Pharaoh's daughter, but he knows he's Israelite. He knows he's an Israelite. So he goes down and he sees um, one of the Egyptians beating a Hebrew man, a Hebrew slave. So he killed the Egyptian and buried them. And I was like, I don't remember nobody telling me Moses was a murderer. So that took me aback. I was like, oh, he didn't kill somebody. And not only did he kill him, he buried the body. Okay, look at Moses. But anyway, Pharaoh found out about it. So Moses had to run. And he ended up running to this place called Midian. And there he helped water a flock for these girls. And they told their dad, like, hey, we gave back so early because this guy helped us. And so the dad's name is Ruel. And he's like, oh, invite him over for dinner. Why didn't you invite him over? Like, yeah, let us invite him over. So they do that. And then the dad ends up giving Moses Zipporah as a wife. And they end up having a son named Gershom. And then the king that made the Israelites slaves died. And that's when the Israelites cried out to God, like, we can't take this. Help us. Get us out of here. And God heard them. So we move into chapter 3 when Jethro, and I learned that that is Moses' father-in-law, but it's likely his title. It means your excellency. So Jethro is the title and Ruel is his name. Anyway, because I was like, wait, his father-in-law, they just said it was Ruel. So I had to like look and figure out why he had two names, and that's why. So anyway, he's out watering the flock, and he see that there's a burning bush, but the bush isn't burning. So the bush was on fire, but it wasn't burning. And so he's like, what's going on? He's going trying to figure it out. And that's when God called out to him and was like, Moses. And Moses is like, here I am. First of all, if I'm going up to a bush that's burning and it ain't been burnt up, I don't know if I'm going to be saying here I am if somebody called my name. But Moses is like, here I am. But he also killed somebody. So he about that life. So it's like, but anyway, God was like, Moses, he's like, here I am. God told him to take off his sandals because he's on holy ground. And God told him, I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so Moses hid his face because he was scared to look at God. And then God basically told him that I heard the Israelites cry out, and so I'm going to take them out of there. You got to go get them, though. And he's like, who do I say sent me? And that's when God's like, tell them I am that I am. I am who I am. Like, I am. That's who you could tell sent them. And then he's like, but they not going to let you go easily. And that's when I'm going to stretch out my hand and perform all these miracles and miraculous things. And then they're going to be like, we better let them go. And then he told them, don't go empty-handed. Have the women ask neighbors for silver, gold, and clothing, and put that onto the kids. And then he says the Israelites will plunder the Egyptians, which basically means seizure of all of the goods and property. And that's where we leave off. This Bible is so interesting to me. And so I had to figure out, I'm like, which one of Israel's sons does Moses belong to? And it turns out that he's from the line of Levi. And Levi is Leah's son. So one of Leah's sons is in the descendant line of Moses. Another thing that I took the time to do research on is I went back to the NIV version because the the King James versions was a little too 1600 English for me. And so they go back and forth between Israelites and Hebrew. They like use them interchangeably, but Israelites and Hebrew, I think those two were the same or something like that, but it used Jewish too. And Jewish is from the Judah tribe. So all of Jewish people are Israelites, but not all of Israelites are Jewish, because the Jewish people comes from the Judah line only. And as we know, Israel had 12 kids. So today is Friday. So Saturday's reading is Exodus 4 through 6, and Sunday's reading is Exodus 7 through 9. As always, this Bible is good to me. Let me know y'all thoughts after you read too, so we can get this conversation flowing and learning and growing closer to God. So till next time, see you next time.